Okay, the question is, we talked about increasing VO2 and meaning increasing VO2 training in order to increase VO2 max, in order to increase FTP, and it's not working for this person, and you're looking for my thoughts. So, for context, this person did a consult with me, and we talked about the next step in their training to increase their FTP. We talked about how basically FTP wattage is typically kind of 75 to 85% of your power at VO2 max. And I've talked about how your power at VO2 max doesn't really exist, but for our purposes right now, we're gonna just say that it does. And this percentage is called your fractional utilization. So if you can get your fractional utilization or the percent of your FTP at VO2 max to kind of your physiological peak, for most people, it's somewhere between 75 to 85% is going to be your FTP relative to your power at VO2 max. So if you say you get it to your peak, say it's 85%, you're now at a point where your FTP is kind of going to top out because it's running into this ceiling of your VO2 max. And until you raise your VO2 max, you're not going to be able to raise your FTP. So when you get to that point, it's time to do some VO2 max training, raise that ceiling, and then, you kind of create space for you to raise your FTP. So I looked at this person's training data, and that was the inference that I made, was that, their fractional utilization was high, and it was time to do some VO2 max training. Now, I'm not your coach. I'm not in your training peaks after that call. So I did give you some sample workouts. I don't know how you're doing them. I don't know how you're structuring both the workouts themselves as well as the block of VO2 max training. So I am kind of missing that information. I don't know your fatigue levels or a lot of other background info that I'd be looking at and utilizing, if we were working together. I've also seen VO2 max work take anywhere from 2 to even 8 weeks to have an impact on FTP growth. So, you may simply need some more time to see that play out. That's also a possibility. All of that said, the single biggest reason that I see that it would be, that it would not be having an effect on increasing your FTP is fatigue. Either you aren't rested enough to do the VO2 max training, like you're not reaching VO2 max in your training, or you've done the VO2 max training, but you're not resting enough to absorb that stimulus, recover, and see adaptation. So, I don't really know you. My sense from what I do know is that you probably are overdoing it. And, whether that was when you were doing this, again, I'm not sure if you're still doing the VO2 max training and you're expecting to see a change right now, or if you have already done this VO2 max work and you're kind of waiting to see a change. But my sense is that you likely aren't resting enough, either between workouts or since you've done this block. I watch, I see you on Strava. I don't know if I've ever seen you do a true recovery ride. So VO2 max it's a really, really big load, and you really need to rest in an equivalent manner in order to see that pay off, in order to kind of absorb that training and see any change. So, there's some possible explanations, and hopefully that gives you some things to think about with respect to getting your FTP to continue to go up.